To your own self be true. How many times have we said, I need you to accept me for who I am? I just want somebody who would take me the way I am without wanting to change me. But can we even accept ourselves for the people that we truly are? Do you even know who you truly are? Hi, my name is Jamila Idris, and I help high achievers create a life of meaning and fulfillment by creating alignment, harmony, and deep connections. I am a young girl, or rather, I'm a woman who grew up in the northern part of Nigeria, and there is an idea there is a belief that the women in this part of the world don't do certain things. And even if you get to do some things, you need to do it as a married woman or, having some level of connections. Now, I grew up knowing that I wanted more out of life. I don't know what that more was, but then I just knew that I wasn't comfortable with the way things were, with the life that I had. So I was hungry, I was thirsty because I wanted to create a better life for myself. And I know this is true for a lot of high achievers like you. This dissatisfaction began to grow into frustration because it seemed like I didn't have the example of what I wanted around me. I tried to use my hands, learned all the girly things or the things that girls my age would learn, like sewing, all those things, and it didn't work. I wasn't just good at it. And when I came to the realization that my most prized asset, my gift, my talent was my ability to speak, I cried. I felt disappointed because what can I do with that? What can I possibly do with just talking? And that was when it hit me why I got on the list of noisemakers more than any other person in my class then, why I always got into trouble by something I have said or talk myself out of trouble through something I say. This discomfort led me to exploring other people outside of my immediate environment that were living this life, that were talking for a living. This led me to explore people who were talking for a living to see what it was like and how I can build a life on that. And it was very difficult because for the longest, I didn't know how to tell people what I was doing because what I studied in school was different from what I am doing currently. And you tell people what you do, they're trying to put you in a box. So when people ask me what I do, I just tell them I help high achievers live a life of meaning and fulfillment by creating alignment, harmony, and deep connections. And they're like, are you a coach, a consultant? What are you? And I'm like, well, I do all of that because it is a methodology I use in delivering the solutions that I deliver. So with a client, we can use different methodologies. Cognitive behavioral, I'm a trained psychotherapist, cognitive behavioral therapist, NLP practitioner, and the list goes on and on and on. And then I have found myself in different industries where I have used my expertise and I have also learned. And so I am sharing this because lots of people think their purpose, they need to be working on their purpose every day, in the sense that the work they do needs to be their purpose. So if, let's say, your purpose is to impact people in the area of maybe skill development, you feel like the only way you can fulfill purpose or live out your purpose is to maybe physically teach people, right? But that is not what it is. Living out your purpose is how you do things. It's like a methodology, a frame that just guides you in everything you do. And that was why it was a little bit easy for me, because I realized everywhere I found myself, I always found a way of improving expression. I was that child that was very expressive, and of course it got me into trouble as having African, or rather Nigerian, parents. So when I find myself in different situations, I am very curious about how to improve the expressions of things that I find, and then Some people call this, oh, improving the idea or of that, but then I just feel like things need to be expressed in the best ways possible. So this is basically talking about purpose and how people feel like their purpose needs to be something profound. They need to find their purpose. We don't find our purpose. It is something we are given birth to in. It is something that we just do. It shows in the way that we live our lives. All we need to do is to embrace it, because for a lot of us, we are living in purpose, but then we are not aware of it. And when we are not aware of it, what happens is that we begin to live in resistance, and then this resistance begins to create stress. And when we are stressed, we become overwhelmed and we're unable to take action and create the outcomes that are required. Now, in the process of doing this, a lot of people will tell you what you can or cannot do, but it is up to you to decide what it's going to be for you. And decision is very important, because a lot of us don't want to make decisions because it's when you make a particular decision, you are not held accountable for that decision. So a lot of people run away from making decisions because they don't want to be responsible for the outcomes of those decisions. And decisions are not made when you have option A, B, and C. Decision is like, it's either this or this. Some people define the decision as cutting away every other option. So let's say you decide to go into entrepreneurship. You make a decision that you're going into entrepreneurship, and it is either entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship. There is no other option. Or you decide that you want to live a particular kind of life. You want to live a responsible life, and there is no other option. And this will help your brain to see opportunities for you to build yourself in this regard and become that person. But where you have different options or different backup plans, what happens is that you'll be unable to make the necessary decisions needed to move you forward. Now, this is a case of self-leadership. A lot of people can lead themselves to taking actions, especially as successful high achievers. You already have this experience beneath your belt where you are able to make decisions and move yourself forward. But another aspect of this is how your ability to all that is required without creating compromising your well-being in the process of creating those outcomes that you desire. So a lot of us must have ourselves from certain situations. Like my own case, I didn't have an example of the type of life I want to create in my immediate environment, and I had to start seeking for that through and other educational experiences. For you, it could be different, right? But the main thing is that while you are at it, while you are on that pursuit, what you get to do is to ensure that you are also taking care of your well-being. And this is where a lot of successful high achievers lack. This is where we struggle. As a high achiever, you're not comfortable with the regular. You just feel like there's something out there that you can explore. There's more you can do at the end of the day. But what happens is that we drive ourselves to exhaustion, and then we get stuck because we lose steam. That thing that was motivating us, that was pushing us, may no longer apply. So what you get to do is to take some steps back and ask yourself why this is really important to you. In my quest, there were some challenges I experienced, especially when it came to receiving support from the people closest to me, like my family, and some of them did not just get why I wanted to put myself through the stress of path of entrepreneurship rather than just getting married, giving birth, and living a very regular life. So there was this situation where I was going for my master's, and somebody was telling me why I shouldn't, giving me reasons why I shouldn't go for my master's, because I was single, unmarried, and even with my degree, people were feeling intimidated to talk to me, talk more of when I now go for my master's. If I didn't have this conviction inside of me for the type of life I wanted, those would have stifled my growth. It would have kept me in a particular place, and maybe I wouldn't still be married and I'll be frustrated, or I'll be married and be frustrated because I am forcing myself to live a life that I didn't want to live, or because society or people were telling me how I should live my life. While we want people to accept us for who we are, we need to start by accepting ourselves first. And we are better judges of ourselves. We know those things that we need to be doing, we need to start doing, or do more of. Some people live out of integrity, and that is why we are unable to create the outcomes that we desire. When you don't decide who you are, every other person will tell you who you should be, and that is what happened to me. If I hadn't decided the person I wanted to become, I would give in to what other people were, who the person other people were telling me to be. It's only going to create frustration. So, to your own self, be true. Rather than hoping that other people would accept you for who you are, you need to start by accepting yourself first. We save ourselves a lot of hurt when we accept ourselves, when we begin to accept ourselves in our entirety with all the curves and edges. When it even comes to weight loss, for instance, or whatever change we want to create in our lives, if we see our body as something we need to save ourselves from, or something we don't like, it becomes very difficult for you to create that transformation, for you to lose weight. But when you begin to accept yourself, when you love yourself the way you are, and then you see the need to improve in a way that helps you to become more of who you are, it becomes easy for other people to also begin to see you through the lens with which you see yourself. So rather than hoping that other people would accept you, start by accepting yourself. Accepting yourself doesn't mean that you just remain stagnant and don't get to do anything about and to change or to improve your situation. Rather, when you accept yourself, you are constantly trying to improve on this version of the person you are so that you can live out your highest potential. Now, this shows up in the way we take care of ourselves. What are those habits we are, engaging in daily as a result of our self-acceptance? What are the ways that we are living out our purpose and creating impact in the world, living a life of fulfillment and meaning? How are we able to connect with other people to build relationships? Now, if you accept yourself, or rather when you accept yourself, it becomes easy for you to accept other people. It becomes easy for you to be a person of value. You don't limit yourself by, say, your account balance. You see yourself as a person of value. You see your worth as a person and your ability to improve or add value to another person. So it helps you to function better in your different relationships. It also helps you to be able to see yourself worthy of attracting abundance into your life, of receiving all those things that you want in your life. For a lot of us, it's not like what we want is not available. It's just that we don't see ourselves worthy of receiving those things. And most importantly, we begin to create an environment, a works and living space that supports this person we are becoming or we want to become, because we have accepted ourselves. So you begin to operate from this higher version of the person you are. If you continue to live in denial, what happens is that you stop yourself from growing. So the key components or ingredients of embracing growth, of getting to that point where you begin to grow into the best version of yourself, is to accept the person you are right now, and you begin to take it from there. It becomes easy for you to grow from that point where you have accepted yourself. Some of those things are totally outside of your control. Self-acceptance helps you to look at yourself inside of these situations and take yourself outside of it, and you look at it holistically by changing perspective. So when you look at yourself in it, how did these experiences or these things that you're uncomfortable with, how have they created their reality, the life that you're currently living? How have they influenced you? And what are the positive outcomes you have enjoyed as a result of this happening? For some people, if those traumas did not happen, they wouldn't be creating the type of outcomes they are creating. While some people experience trauma and it keeps them stuck, some other people experience it, and that is what helps them to push harder so that they can create a better reality for themselves and they don't subject other people to those type of experiences. And another very important thing is that you accept your emotions. For a lot of people, we resist our emotions. People will tell you things like, control your emotions. Men are not supposed to cry, or women are not supposed to do XYZ. And they just make us feel like our emotions are wrong. And the truth is, there are no wrong emotions. Our emotions are messengers. They are messengers that point us to certain aspects of our lives that we need to work on. If you experience some level of irritation, what that is telling you is that there is some healing or some work you need to do in that aspect of your life. Nothing has meaning, only the meaning we give to it. And as Tony Robbins says, our life is limited to the stories we tell ourselves about certain events. So let's say a traumatic event really happened in your life, but then there are some positives that came with that event. There are some things that you can pick from that event to help you propel yourself to someplace higher. It is for you to reframe the stories you tell yourself about certain events and use it as a launch pad to become a better version of yourself, rather than a prison you lock yourself in. Some of all those experiences should be the reason you become a better person, rather than becoming somebody who isn't nice to other people, or you tend to transfer those experiences to other people by causing them hurt and harm at the end of the day. And it is very important as well to point out that when you have experiences that you're unable to walk through, you need to work with a professional that will help you walk through those experiences so that you can transmute the experience from a negative one to a positive one. Because if you could do it yourself, you would have been doing it, right? So it is very important that you seek somebody. I would recommend that you seek a professional to help you walk through those experiences so that it helps you to become a better person at the end of the day, and you're able to live out your potential and achieve the life that you desire. At the end of the day, self-acceptance is key. It helps you to create those transformations that you need to create in your life, so you can grow into the best version of yourself and you're able to create the impact that you have been placed on this earth to create at the end of the day. Thank you for watching. So if you liked this, comment, share and subscribe.